Hi everybody, this Monday with Manny is dedicated to the topic of training methodologies and approaches. And while you watch this video, I think it's important to first open up with the idea that though there are many differences, in my opinion, dog training is very, very similar to raising children. And it's important for you to consider the idea that as much as possible when we're teaching our children how to learn, when we're teaching our dogs how to learn, the best approach is to be kind, but also follow through. It's the idea that we need to ebb and flow between being soft and firm, being kind and following through, and it's never an absolute answer. It's never a one or the other. The goal is to have enough kindness and enough wisdom to be able to make a strategic choice about what and how you're teaching and in what order. So, without further ado, here's your Monday with Manny. It's a gorgeous afternoon, and as usual I am out and about with my walking buddy, and we're just drilling some side-by-side work. We're just cranking out the repetition, making sure we're working on that position and that nice cooperative interaction that is expected on the leash. And here's what I'm thinking about. Recently I had a prospective client ask me, Manny, what are your methods? What is the methodology you follow? What techniques do you use for training? And in short, I gave him the answer I give most people, which is I don't follow one particular methodology or approach. It depends, and that's the honest answer. It really just depends. What are we talking about here? How does the dog learn? What have you tried? What does he respond to or not? How significant of the behavior is it or not? What kind of person is the owner? How does the owner learn? What has the owner tried, right? There's so many variables that make that a loaded question. It's like trying to ask a parent, how do you raise your child? What method do you use to teach your child how to navigate the world? Now, isn't that a heavy question, right? It depends, right? And I really feel for pet parents when they're trying to make a decision about where to start in the dog training world, in the community, because things are very polarizing in many respects. You know, you have the camp in the dog training world that says, don't train your dog with food. You're bribing your dog. You're gonna make it so your dog only responds when there's food present. You must be a pushover. Your dog should just do it because you said so, right? You're a more firm crowd. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have your positive only crew who like to teach unsuspecting pet parents that you should never say no to your dog. As a matter of fact, you never need to say no to your dog. You should teach everything positively and fill in the blank, right? And the problem with both of these perspectives is that they're really extreme. It's never that simple. It's never black and white. It's an ebb and flow, right? It really just depends on the specific situation, and it can make it really hard for families to sift through all the conflicting information. You know, I watched a positive only trainer teach loose leash walking, and right after the trainer, again, no disrespect, just being real, right after the trainer had just explained about positive only methods and not correcting, they went into an exercise to teach loose leash walking, and the student was supposed to turn the opposite direction and start walking and let the dog hit the end of the leash. And the problem with this is when you try to say you're being positive and you're positive only and you're teaching that, it's a bit hypocritical, because that's not positive only, right? Maybe you're being nice and maybe you're being kind, which is positive in the emotional sense, but when we're talking in training language, in learning theory lingo, what you just did was you applied pressure to decrease the behavior. You turned around and applied leash pressure. Sure, you weren't yanking and cranking, but by definition, you're correcting. And that's not positive only. In training terms, that's called positive punishment. You just corrected a behavior. I watched another positive only trainer, and this comes to mind because a client of mine recently shared an experience that they had very similar to mine. I watched a positive only trainer explain how to keep a dog from darting out the front door. And again, right after going on a spiel about positive only and not correcting your dog, they proceeded to explain that the front door is the one time it's okay to scare your dog. Jump out from around the corner and into the doorway and scare your dog so your dog doesn't want to go through the front door. And even though I would use slightly different language, I don't have an inherent problem with standing in the way of the front door and teaching your dog through pressure to back off from the front door. I wouldn't go so far as to say my goal is to scare the dog, but the bigger picture here is you can't be positive only and teach that sometimes it's okay to not be positive. It just doesn't make sense. Can you guys see how it's a little hypocritical? I watched another positive only trainer explaining to a client how to get a dog to stop jumping up, and in one hand the trainer was using food, positive, but in the other hand the trainer was pulling the leash backwards and away from her, adding pressure, therefore correcting. You can't say that you're positive only and also sometimes use corrections. And I think the big confusion, especially for pet parents in this regard, is the idea that we're using the words positive and negative a little too loosely. You have positive and negative from the context of being emotional. Positive is good, positive is kind, positive is happy and fluffy and all of that. And then negative being bad or mean, right? And in training terms, positive is addition, negative is subtraction. There's nothing emotional about it. You're just giving and taking, and there's a spectrum of intensity, right? And so I really feel for pet parents because navigating all this can be quite turbulent and confusing, and you have certain people that will make you feel bad about choosing one thing or the other. And so when I talk to people, we're going to just turn around here. When I talk to people about where to begin and how I would recommend teaching and all of that, I like to give families permission to just explore things and try, because this idea that one absolute approach will always work, it's just not true. And it's not fair to pet parents who are just trying to do their best and just trying to make a good decision for their dog and for their family. I like to consider always what's fair and what's efficient for everybody involved, not just the dog. And so if you ask me, Manny, are you a positive reinforcement trainer? Yes, I am. Manny, do you use corrections? Are you a correction trainer? Yes, I do. But it really just depends. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, one or the other. Life and learning is about being flexible and about the ebb and flow, right? It's never an absolute. So I give you guys permission to not feel bad about what it is you decide to do with your dog and making a decision based off of what's best for your family. Good luck.